Thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I'm excited to have my next guest. We actually got connected through Zandra Evans as fellow TV producer. So I'm so excited to have her here today for us to catch up. I have Andrea with me. So before we get into some great conversation, I want to give her the floor to introduce herself.
Hello. Well, thank you, America Supermom, for having me. I love being here with you and a fellow producer. I'm Andrea Crum, and I am just doing what God has called me to do. I think that is the best way to describe where I'm at in my life right now. I was in corporate America for 25 years. I was an executive in marketing, and then I started a women's leadership development company and ended up having a TV show on Zonder's network called Girl Talk. And since then, God has called me into full-time women's ministry, genuine women ministry. And it's all about helping women speak biblical truth in our culture today. So it has just been a wild ride over the last 2 years of saying, yes, Lord. And I've got two amazing boys, one who's 11, one who's 8, and I've been married to an amazing husband for 18 years. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. So this is just great, to actually have a calling and follow that. So many people, they find their purpose, they find what they feel they're supposed to do. Explain what a calling actually is for some of the viewers who may think they know, but not quite sure. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think that one, as a Christian, I think that all of our purpose is to spread the good news. So anybody who's a Christian, I think that's our purpose in life. But I feel like the calling is a little bit different. It's when it's part of that, but it's about finding what God has specifically called you to do and use your talents and your gifts for. And for me, I think there's different seasons in our life, right? There's different seasons of preparations. There's different seasons where we might not have any idea what our calling is because we're getting prepared, or we're going to be using some of those experiences for what God's going to call us to do later on in life. And so that's been the journey for me, is kind of honing in on what exactly that is and hearing from God, being able to spend time with him and being able to be clear on the direction that he's taking me. So that's what the calling is. Specifically, it's just getting direction on, how I am to spend my time and my days and where my ministry really lies.
That is so awesome. So with your ministry, for it to be more full-time, what was that transition like, from doing a business or whatever, and then now ministry? What was that transition like?
It's been a big transition. It's still a transition, and it's not full speed ahead yet. So I feel like I've still, even been in ministry, I've been in a preparation season. I've been in training. I went to the Colson Center of Christian Worldview and took a program, a very intense educational program through them. So that was part of it. The other's spending quite a bit of time with the Lord. And it is getting the ministry going. So getting a Bible study that I have about truth and love, how to speak truth and love in our culture today, getting that together. And so spending my days more writing and learning versus being in a corporate environment where I was in meetings all day and I was working on somebody else's projects, Mm-hmm. And so it's been really different. And I think one of the hardest things has been the fact that I'm in charge of my own schedule. And I know that's really exciting for a lot of people, but for me, it's been a little bit challenging because it's meant really having to get disciplined in areas that I really loved having a calendar where somebody else told me, where I needed to go. So being that self-directed entrepreneur has definitely been very different and taken some time to get used to.
I love that. And that is so true. I definitely understand. It's like, when you don't have a deadline or something else that someone's telling you, it's like, oh, I'll get to that eventually, or something else comes. It's like a squirrel, right? Every little project that comes up, you're moving. But so diving deeper into ministry, my husband is a pastor. And how is it with that pressure, in terms of having to say the right thing or people thinking that you have it all together talk to us about what that actually, what your experience is with that.
Mm-hmm. I think there is definitely a higher standard that I have to consider, when I respond maybe in social media or when I post a video, things like that, making sure that I'm really accurate, biblically, scripturally speaking, and making sure that I'm holding myself to that higher standard, making sure that I'm in a good place with the Lord if I'm going to be ministering to other people, because I'm human, right? So not every day is a great day, but really making sure that I am doing the things that I am suggesting that other people do. So I think there is, a higher level of expectation from that perspective, making sure that I am spending time in the Word and with the Lord, and, how am I reacting to my family, right? Am I being a good example in that perspective? So I think there's a lot of things that I didn't realize necessarily that I would need to be more concerned and aware of, if I didn't have this particular calling. I also know that God's called me to speak biblical truth in love, which means I say things that aren't necessarily popular culturally wise. And so I have to be mindful of that. Who's the audience? And is this going to be taken out of context? Trying to always saying the truth, but making sure that it's said in love, right? And so that is a very tight line to walk as well. So there's definitely a different standard for sure.
Yeah. Now, so, with that being said, how do you guard your mindset? Because there's so many things going on just in the world and, in corporate America, or different issues that women may be struggling with this being your ministry. So how do you protect your own mindset? What are some things that you do in your routine?
Yeah. One is that I just don't watch the news very much anymore. I used to be very tied to the news, this last news cycle especially, but I probably would say in the last 6 months, I really just don't watch it very much at all. I know generally the highlights of what's going on, but I'm definitely not consumed with it because I know that he who is greater than the world, right? He who is greater than what's going on here. And I think it can just bring us down and really put us in a bad headspace, for one. Also, I do spend quite a bit of time with the Lord just in quiet and stillness. And that is really a way that I protect my mind. And then the other thing that's been really amazing is, as I've moved into this space, is finding women who come beside me and be prayer partners. So when I feel kind of attacked, and in different areas, that I can call on and ask for prayer on my behalf, so that's something for people to be able to intercede for me when I'm struggling. That has been something that's been really important on this journey as well.
That is awesome. Yeah. And I think it's so important to kind of have that kind of structure because, life does throw us curveballs, as we can see with this pandemic. Okay. And everything that's going on with that. So I think that is great. So, what are some books or podcasts or something that allows you to continue to grow, to be able to pour into other women and make sure that you take care of self?
Yeah, some of the things that I really am focused on listening to women who are biblically sound, or preachers or pastors who are biblically sound. So one of the people that I've really enjoyed listening to is Elisa Childers. She has a book called Another Gospel, and so I really enjoy listening to her. I listened to Breakpoint, which is from the Colson Center for Christian Worldview, the group that I had gone to, because they're always bringing up cultural topics and kind of what is the biblical response to that. So I'm really focused on looking for podcasts or for material that is going to help strengthen my knowledge in the ministry. And then in terms of, where do I go for just my own self-renewal, that would be the Bible. I really just am looking to the Lord to do that transformative work in me.
That's awesome. Now, so in terms of dealing with women and empowering them, what are maybe 2 or 3 things that kind of get in the way of us being empowered? What are some of the common struggles that you see that a lot of women are faced with that you really help them through in the ministry?
Yeah. I think right now the main thing is there's just, I think, fear about what's going on in the world and what kind of world are our kids growing up in. And I think one of the things, I think for a lot of people, I think it doesn't even matter where you are in terms of your belief system. I think a lot of us are feeling the division in our world and the difficulty it is to have conversations with people. And so I think we've kind of self-silenced ourselves and we've kind of retreated. And so what I really help people with is building that confidence, to have the words to say, to know the truth, so that when they're in conversations, they can share that and do so in love. So I think a lot of it is building confidence to have a voice and to feel empowered to use that voice, not to shrink away and not to feel like, everything's in despair. I think that's part of it. Because after a year in the pandemic as well, just everybody, it's just been, it's just been a crazy, crazy time. So I think that that's a lot of it. I think the other thing is I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of women about purpose and calling because they see me, doing this and breaking out of, what conventional wisdom would tell me to do. And so I get to talk a lot about that to women. And I definitely find very common is the imposter syndrome. What are people going to think of me? They're not going to be able to view me like that. Or if I step into this area, they're going to think I'm competing with so-and-so. So that kind of imposter syndrome that holds people back. And I think that for that, it's one of those things where you just kind of have to let go and you have to just put one foot in front of the other. And you just have to stop worrying about what the world thinks and what other people think, because definitely people are going to have their opinions, but it's much better to follow the one who's leading than the ones who are watching.
So true. That's a good one. That is so good. So as mothers, dealing with our children, following our dreams, what advice would you give other moms who may be in the situation where they have a corporate job or some kind of security to follow something? It may not be ministry, but it could be anything, but we're in uncertain times. So what advice would you give them about following what they feel is their purpose or calling?
I always say that God has already provided. So if he's called you into something else, and I think that that's the first thing is to clarify and make sure that that's what's happening. If he's called you into something else, he's always provided, and he's always provided in some way. And it may not be the way that you're interested in taking advantage of, right? It could be in your house. It could be in equity in your home. It could be in your retirement savings. It could be in loans from a family member, somebody who's gracious. So it could be in just different areas. So that's one thing I always tell people is that if God's called you into it, he's already provided, and you just have to be willing to decide if you're going to sacrifice that thing that he has already provided for you. Again, it's God's wisdom and not conventional wisdom. So I think that's the first thing. If you don't feel like there's an option there, then I think there's always the ability to, do the side work, as you have time throughout your day, whether it's a weekend or whether it's in the evenings, to begin to work on the thing that is really important to you. Whether it's writing a book or whether it's starting a new business. If it's something where you need customers, maybe you're going out to coffee with people in the mornings. There's just different ways. We have plenty of time. I just read a quote by John Piper, and it said something to this effect, which is one of the benefits of Twitter and Facebook will be in the last days. It will prove that we all had more time than we said we had, so we have time, right? It's just a matter of where we're spending our time and how we're using our time. So if it's something that's really on your heart, then you have to go after it, because I think at the end of the day, we don't want to have regrets.
I love that. So, and since we're talking about time, because so many people, that is a normal thing for a lot of women. Oh, I've got to do this and all these things that are on your to-do list. How do you manage your time? What are some 3 tips or something that you could give the women that are watching about how they can manage their time in their schedule every day?
That is such a good question because I feel like I'm constantly battling that one myself because my struggle is the discipline part of the
Mhm.
scheduling. And what I've really tried to do, and so this won't be the same thing for people who are in a corporate role, but like being at home now, that's working
Mhm.
from home. That has been the big change. And so, especially with summer, and I know you're familiar with this, I've really tried to find myself saying yes a little bit more to my children, when they ask for us to play a game, even though I have a million things to do. So I say yes and spend that 30 minutes with them. And then I'm able to say, hey, okay, I've got to go do work now. But it really relieves me of that guilt of feeling like I didn't take the time to be with them. And that 30 minutes to me is very well spent, then, and they feel filled up and they're able to go do what they need to do. And I'm able to do what I need to do. So that's been helpful from that perspective. And then I think when I was in corporate America, I would say the biggest thing for me, and I don't know if everybody deals with this, but I had a hard time leaving work on time. I had so many things that I needed to do. I got a lot of personal satisfaction for getting things done. And so I think for women, that's something that, you get all this personal satisfaction in your job. And then when you get home, you don't get that same level of satisfaction sometimes. And because then all of a sudden you're just needed, right? And there's not a lot of thank yous necessarily. So I think one of the things that's really important in a corporate role is for women especially is leaving on time and having those boundaries and not checking your email when you get home and really just setting that clearly so that you can be present where you need to be present.
That is wonderful. Great advice, because I think that is something that, like I said, we all struggle with that. And I don't know about anybody watching, but during the pandemic, it seemed like my work week just multiplied, and it's because you were working from home. It was like, I don't remember really having a weekend. Every day looked the same, whether it was Monday, Sunday, whatever day, because we just had that overlap so much during the pandemic. So, great points. Now, so thinking back to ministry, because again, being in the ministry myself, my husband's the pastor, not myself, but you go through this period, at least sometimes I did in the past, of feeling like not being worthy to be a person that is helping other people in the ministry, based on the level of, I don't know, you just feel like they are expecting so much out of you for you to have so much knowledge and, to be able to convey that to other people. So how do you kind of navigate through that? What are some tips that you could share with other people that may be in the ministry or even considering it because of feeling unworthy, maybe?
Oh my gosh, my favorite saying I think in this season has been, God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. And I
Mm.
really have had to lean on that because for me specifically, I feel He's called me to be a Bible study teacher.
Hmm.
And I was not somebody who read my Bible regularly until probably the last couple of years.
Hmm.
So to be someone that is now, he's called me to impart this, to share and to teach other people has been definitely one where I feel I'm not worthy, especially when I'm listening to these podcasts of all these people and reading these folks who have been studying this, who've gone to seminary and who've been doing it for 20 or 30 years in a lot of cases. I think, oh, what do I know? What credibility do I have to be in this position? So I often do have to just constantly rely on the Lord. Okay, Lord, you called me to this, so therefore I'm expecting you to show up and teach me what I need to say, and he does. I think that's what's been so beautiful. And in fact, I've gotten a lot more comfortable working that way, realizing that I don't have all the answers, but somehow he delivers through me. And, I think it's the being the willing vessel, pour into me and then I'll pour out, I'm here, I'm willing. And I am doing my own studying and I'm watching, videos or podcasts, and I'm learning and reading books and things like that. So I'm doing my part, but then how does it all come together? And what am I teaching them that's going to be different than what they've already maybe known or learned? And so I think a lot of it is just leaning on the Lord and trusting him to make good on what he's called you to do. And like I said, I've definitely gotten a lot better at that. There's been times where I've had weeks where I'm wrestling with a particular topic that I need to write on, and I almost sick about it, and just because I'm like, it's not going to work, it's not going to be. And then the day before or something, it's just like whoosh, it just all comes, And I don't love that timing. I kind of wish it would show up earlier so I didn't have to deal with all that anxiety. But I think it's him just saying, look, trust me, I'm going to do this. So I think that's the best thing that I can share, is just trust him to do it, but do your part. You have to do your part. You have to, you just can't sit there and, stare at a blank screen all day, and just, that may work for some, but you've got to have some stuff percolating in your brain and then he helps kind of bring it all together.
Absolutely. Now, so what are some programs or different ways that people might want to connect with you when it comes to, your empowerment that you're doing with the women?
Thank you. So what I'm doing right now is I'm finishing up designing my study, which is how to speak biblical truth in our culture today with love. And I will be offering that online in the fall. So that's where I'm going from there. I'm teaching it right now on Zoom and in our church, and then I will be offering it online. And so people can connect with me on my website, AndreaCrum.com. That's last name is Crum, no B. And then it is also on Instagram. Andrea Crum 7 is my handle on Instagram, where people can connect with me and get more information when that's available.
I love that. Now, so what words of wisdom, final advice that you would like to give to the audience that's watching today?
I think what I would say is that God's got a plan for you. God has bigger things for you. It is a process of letting go of our own expectations of what our life is going to look like to follow the things that he has. So it can be scary at times, but it's also pretty glorious. So I would just, my words of wisdom would be to seek the Lord and what he has for you. Ask him to order your steps and water those steps so that you can get to the place that he has for you.
Awesome. Love that. And I think that is just great, wise words. So often, we have that fear of stepping out and just doing it, right? Especially when it's called, when it's something that we're called to do. We got to get, we sometimes have those doubting Thomas moments where it's like, hey, I got to put my finger there to feel and see if this is really going on. That's so this has just been great. I mean, such an inspiration. I think this is so important for many people who are kind of struggling with this. It is not certain times, but so much in life is not certain. We have to decide in faith what it is that we want to do and just take action. It would be easy, like you said, if everything was just shown to us. Of course we would gravitate towards it if we knew what the outcome was going to be or how it was going to happen. Right. So I totally agree with that. So so great to connect and catch up with you. And so you're going to have your course in the fall. Anything else that you want to let us know that's going to be happening with you?
I think that's what I'm focused on right now. So I have some women's retreats and next year in 2022. So that will be another really fun way to get together in community with other women who are wanting to dig deeper into God's word. So those are the things that are going on, and I'm really excited about. And I'm really honored. And I've always loved your spirit, Lachelle. You just are an amazing woman and an inspiration. So I'm so thankful to be on your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that we got connected, and definitely would love to have you come back and give us some updates, because I think, it's so inspiring to witness people just going out there doing it, because that's the example. I remember my struggle with depression was because I didn't have an example of what a stay-home mom looked like. I didn't have anybody that I could mirror after or just take some hacks from or anything like that. So seeing you in action, I think, is very inspiring for many of the people that are watching.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you for going out and doing what you do as well, because yes, it definitely takes a lot. I know you have a village behind you, and so it's amazing to see. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, we want to thank you all for watching us today. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and reach out to Andrea, give her all the support, have a conversation. Things change from simply a conversation. It was a conversation that led me to Zandra and led us together as producers. And you never know what the future holds. So just reach out, especially if you're on that road to be a better version of yourself. So we thank you all for watching, and we will see you all on the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.